back. It's been a couple weeks since I've been live, although we've had quite a few podcast episodes going out and lots of interesting people to speak with and lots of interesting topics. It is June 20th, Friday, June 20th, 2025. For those who don't know, I'm Camden Bucey. I'm in Libertyville, Illinois at the Reform Forum headquarters. And I'm happy to be here with Dave Almack, who works and serves at P&R Publishing. I've known Dave for several years, and of course, we've known P&R for ages. They've been a great servant to the Reformed and Presbyterian community and churches for years and years and years. And we get to talk more about that today and about a lot of exciting things going on over at P&R. Welcome, Dave. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Camden. It's my delight to be with you this afternoon. And yeah, we have also greatly appreciated the work of Reform Forum and
Mm,
the way you guys engage theology on a regular basis, and occasionally get a chance to talk to some of our authors and
yeah.
talk about our content. So it's been a lot of fun to see the way that God has built up and grown your ministry over the years as well. So
Well, thanks, Dave. Yeah, it's been encouraging for us. Of course, it's countless authors that we've been able to speak with from PNR. If I haven't ever done this, it'd be an interesting stat, but this is not something I would ever do myself, or I would never ask someone to go through the chore of doing this. So this might be the kind of thing AI can do for me someday,
yeah, yeah,
where I just say, "Hey, go figure out, of all 914 episodes we've recorded so far, how many of them have been on a P&R book," and I think you'd be right there at the top of the
yeah,
list, and that's a good thing.
yeah,
We're really excited to be speaking to you today and to be speaking about these excellent books. I'd love for you just to just we're excited to go all anywhere and everywhere with you, and happy just to feature P&R today and to talk about
yeah.
things here as a partner in ministry and more broadly speaking, just a co-laborer in our common faith. And I'd love just to hear a little bit about your particular role at PNR first,
Sure.
perhaps, and then seeing what you're most excited about, and then we can get into some of the history and some of the present needs.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for
Hmm.
asking that. It was very kind. Yeah, I'm in my eighth year. I can't believe it at
Wow.
PNR. And my role, I often joke with people, I just should have a job title that says too much. But anyway, because we are a small but mighty publishing house. God has been very
Yeah.
faithful to us over the years. And so my role primarily involves three things. I do acquisition, so I work a lot with authors, dreaming up ideas and thinking about new things that we might want to do together, and then working all the way through the contract process with them. And then I
Hmm.
hand that off to our editorial team. But I generally pick up those same authors and books on the marketing and sales side. So
Yeah.
I get a chance to oversee the marketing and sales teams. And one of the favorite things I love to do, where I hang out with you occasionally, is go to
Yeah.
events. Because at
Sure.
those events, we often engage authors and get to talk about content and talking about books. I
Yeah.
guess I am a book geek is probably one of my favorite things on earth
That's
to do.
good.
So.
So I'm curious how different the people look at the acquisition stage till when they've finished the book. Do you have before and after photos to
Yeah,
compare
it's
what this
not quite like
process
the
does to people?
Yeah, it's not quite like the presidency where your hair literally changes color or you actually don't have hair when you're done. Okay? But
Yeah, yeah,
it's probably not far from that for some authors for sure.
sure. It's such a laborious process. I think I heard somebody say I know I think I know who, but I don't know if they would want me to say it, but they said that like writing a book, a full length book was like giving birth, and then someone says, "Yeah, don't tell your wife that."
Yeah, no, not a good plan. Yeah, yeah. And
But it
honestly,
is a big task, and it
it
does take
is.
a
Yeah,
lot out of you, and it
it
takes
is.
a village, to quote one of those president's wives.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we are one of those publishers who publish across the board in terms
Mhm.
of the kind of content. And so some of it is
Right.
academic leaning, as you know. And in the
Mhm.
academic stuff, man, the timelines are kind of interesting because you'll sign an author and this is not a joke. This actually happened. We had a 3-volume series that we were working on. And I think if I got this right, volume two took 9 years to produce. Okay, so that was a long wait for a lot of people to get their
Yeah.
volume two. I'll just say that. So,
Yeah, there's a lot that happens. We do a
yeah,
bit of publishing here at Reform Forum, but it's all very focused, and we're trying to do things that no other publisher wants to do.
Yeah.
So we're very, very happy to send. Sometimes we get requests and people suggest,
Yeah.
hey, I'd like to write on this, that, and the other. And if it isn't a course that we want to teach, then we often are trying to find a good home for that and passing people off
Yeah.
to you, Dave, and to other people that might be like minded for whatever project it may
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
But I've gotten a window into that, and just the last several years, it's just how much goes into publishing a book. And of course, writing the book is an
Yeah.
extraordinary feat, but there are millions, so many steps beyond that, of which most people are unaware. They just assume it gets
Yeah.
written and then it magically shows up in stores. No,
Yeah.
this is
No.
a lot
Yeah.
of
No.
steps.
There really are. I'll throw out a stat at you that might be
Hmm.
staggering, but some time ago, of course, self-published books really became a big part of the landscape,
Sure.
and it really changed everything in publishing. And so the number of books that come out on an average year is just staggering. Now, I
Hmm.
think it's probably over 1 million copies, but when I first heard this stat, the number was something like 300,000 books were coming out that year, many of them which were self-published. And the person that had done this research said that the average number of books sold, okay, was like 300. And so that was a little depressing for some of those people to hear that number and to realize all that work went into it.
Yeah.
Fortunately, God has been very faithful to P&R, and I'll just go on record as saying we generally see more than 300 copies sold of a typical P&R book. Okay, for those who are wondering.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's hit and miss. But you're also a mission driven
Very
organization
much
too.
so.
So there's that. Yeah, there's that thing to it. So the bottom line, I mean, obviously, as even a nonprofit organization, you need to stay in business. You can't lose
Yeah,
money indefinitely. But the bigger purposes here are not just chasing audiences, but seeking
yeah,
to educate and to promote. So
absolutely.
there's that. We appreciate that. I'd love, Dave, if you might talk about some of the history of P&R. People
Yeah,
have been around the block will certainly know about the Craig family, and certainly know about the history with Christianity Today, not the current magazine, but the previous iteration. I don't have to get into all the details, but I'd love to hear about
yeah.
how the publishing organization came about and what has been your you know emphasis and mission throughout all these years.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking that, and I'll try
Hmm.
to keep our audience awake by not going into all of the levels of detail that I potentially could for something like this. But
Yeah,
a couple of fun facts: we are actually celebrating our 95th birthday this
it's
year,
amazing.
and we were co-founded really right in that era when the modernist fundamentalist controversies were taking
Hmm.
place, particularly at Princeton.
Hmm.
And so our founder Samuel Craig was working at or with folks at Princeton. He was the editor for, at the time, I guess it would be the PCUSA
Hmm.
main magazine that they had. And he knew all the players, at Princeton Seminary of that era. And certainly J. Graham Machen would have been someone he was working with and friends. And Machen actually co-founded P&R back in 1930. And a lot of folks don't really know that. He was also, of course, founding at that time Westminster Theological Seminary and the OPC and many other things. But God has been very faithful to P&R over 95 years, and from really just an orthodox and confessional newsletter slash magazine that you might call it,
Hmm.
Christianity Today, that came out in the 1930s. To about 1942 was when our first book came out, and over the years we've been known for a lot of theological work, much of it connected to Westminster's early
Yeah.
days. So
Hmm.
certainly Van Til and others, but we also kind of grew up with a lot of what was happening in the Westminster greater environment, and so CCEF and its inception and growth has been a big part of our story as well. People like John Frame and others have been part of our canon, if you will,
Hmm.
and there's lots of fun things happening today. But I will say one key thing in all of that has been the continuity of the Craig family.
Hmm.
And it's amazing that I am currently working with the grandson of Samuel Craig. And
Hmm.
his son, the great grandson, Charles, is with our company as
Wow.
well. And so it's just been a delight to see that continuity over the years and such a commitment to confessional reform theology, and not afraid to really put things out that are deep and rich
Hmm.
and helpful. Some of which is readable, hopefully most of it. But we also realize that we have some work to do occasionally to make that more accessible to this generation as well. So
Yeah, I we were talking just, and you mentioned briefly beforehand also some matters for prayer that might be wise to spread and to share with our listeners and audience because Bryce has been battling with ALS, correct?
yeah, it's an incredible story, really, in many ways. That
Mm,
just a little over a year ago, Bryce was diagnosed with ALS, very sadly, and obviously
mm,
for us, there's a lot of lament going on around that. But praise the Lord, Bryce is still with us, and
hmm.
just as of today, I was emailing back and forth with him. I just saw him in the office again this week,
Wow,
and so there are some treatments that he's receiving and whatnot. But I know that his family, especially Melissa and Charles, would really greatly value the prayers of your community for him in this season.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah, we'll certainly keep him in prayer before the Lord for that. Ask for the Lord's mercies. Certainly, there's quite a bit that we can discuss beyond that. There, just even on point. There's so many really excellent P&R books about prayer, about suffering, about the effects of the fall, even problem of evil, all of these sorts of
yeah,
things that if I think through all the different loci or all the different topics, and P&R has really excellent titles on a range of things, and you've been doing that for 95 years or so. I'm curious though, about some of the more recent titles. I'm wondering, as you're going to different events, I'd love to hear maybe two answers to two questions, if you will. Either you take it
sure.
as you will. What are people most excited about nowadays as you're going to different events, and even maybe more on point, what are you most excited about in terms of the recent titles
Yeah.
before we might get into some things down the road?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you would ask because I actually have two examples for you today that I
Hmm.
brought with me. I didn't know you were going to ask that question exactly, but I think I can answer that concisely with these two books.
I love it.
Our tagline these days is "Reformed theology for real life," and if
Mm,
I would have to condense down to what I get at conferences and a lot of events, is I really want to understand maybe this theological question or this particular concern, but that stuff that you guys have that's like 900 pages, is there any way
yeah,
you could distill that down into something that is more
yeah,
manageable for me to handle? Okay,
yeah.
and so I'm delighted to tell you that we're taking that question seriously. And so anyway, um, here's an example of that. Sean
Yes.
Lucas and his book Presbyterianism is just hitting the market. Okay,
Yeah.
we literally got it in the warehouse yesterday. It will be available for the first time at PCA General Assembly next week. And here's a
Good
guy
timing.
who's written much more extensively and much more, just comprehensively about Presbyterianism.
Hmm.
And this is a little book. You can actually see it designed for group studies and really answering a key question. If you say you're Presbyterian, what does that exactly mean?
Mm,
And a lot of times folks get really confused who are not familiar with Presbyterianism and think that it's really about predestination or just baptizing babies or some other
mm.
mystery that they're confused about. And so anyway, we are delighted to have this book. It has a wonderful question and answer section at the back. It's designed for group study, and I can really see a lot of churches using this in both a small group context as well as like a new member context as
Yeah.
well. So that would be one key thing that I would say. But you asked
I
me a
must. I
second.
need to comment
Jump in.
real briefly
Yeah,
just about that whole series because that's in the Blessings of the Faith series, correct? That's edited by
that's
Jason
correct.
Pilopoulos. Now I've read several of those books. I was just reading one this morning by Blair Smith on Reformed confessionalism. So forgive me if that's not available yet, because sometimes I get stuff in advance and I read it and prepare for interviews. So I'm hoping to get a hold of him and interview him on that book in the future. But there are so many great titles in that series. Jason's a
Oh
friend.
yeah.
We're going to be interviewing him in a couple weeks. So I commend you. That's a great series. But if people don't know about it, they should definitely check it out because there's great titles up and down that whole list.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing series that
Hmm.
that Jason has been really spearheading for us. We've got so many quality authors in that series. And
Hmm.
just to be clear, Reformed Confessionalism by Blair Smith has just come out as well. And
There
that
we
will
go.
also be available next week at the General Assembly and really anywhere that people want to go ahead and get that. So But
That's great timing. You got these, we move a lot of books at
Camden, I hate to do this to
PCAGA.
you, but I
Yeah.
feel like I'm losing you on the connection. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming in and out just a little bit here and there, but we're getting you. So
All
it's
right,
it's
great.
it's
All
working
right.
for now, for sure. So yeah,
Yeah.
apologize for
All
that.
right, perfect.
Hopefully the
You're
connection
back.
hopefully the
Yeah.
connection
Yeah.
will suffice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was
So
going to
we're
mention a
excited.
sec. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
Oh, I was just
I
going
was
to
going to
say
mention
that's really, yeah, go go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, you had asked me a second question, which is which one am I most excited about? Okay, and I want to answer that for you. But if you had another question first, go for it. So
I was going to make a comment about PCA General Assembly. So it's a good timing. It's great to see a lot of good brothers there, and you're certainly going to, I trust, move a lot of books there and put them in good hands.
yeah, no, we're really excited to be at the General Assembly next week, and we're one of the publishers who really primarily sells our content through the PCA bookstore. So if anybody listening to this is going to be there next week and looking for our content, it's primarily going to be in the bookstore itself. Our booth is primarily for demonstration purposes, and so you can come see it there at our booth, but then go get it in the actual PCA bookstore. So.
Absolutely. Now, yeah, what are you most excited about? Because these are exciting titles already, but I'd love to hear the second part of that.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready for me to show you the book that I'm most excited about?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Oh no. Well, we're still live. I'm here. Hopefully, this is still working. Looks like like Dave froze. I'm trying to figure out whether this is on our end or not. Um, since it, yeah, I think it's on his. We lost him. All right. Well, that's quite the teaser, isn't it? Can't wait to see this book that he's most excited about, and yet we've lost him. So this is either a brilliant marketing ploy or a great tragedy. So hopefully Dave will be back in just a second to talk more about P&R Publishing and what he's most excited about. Let me start working through some of these resources in the Blessings of the Faith series. There's one title on covenantal baptism, which Jason Hilopoulos wrote. You can get that hardcover ebook copy. It's for $11.99 on the P&R website. There's one on expository preaching by David Strain. There's one on persistent prayer. We've interviewed Guy Richard about that a couple of years ago. That's a great title. We had a fun conversation on that series. Church Membership by Jonathan Landry Cruz, another one that we featured. And I mentioned Reformed Confessionalism. Jonathan Master on Reformed theology. We discussed that with him not even a year ago. I don't know. It was a while ago. And then Reformed Worship by John T. Rhodes. So really great stuff. Exciting times, exciting titles. If you're in the chat, why don't you go ahead and submit your questions or comments? I'll do my best to answer them while we try to get Dave back on the line. And in the meantime, we'll just be cruising here live. So forgive me if I go quiet and there's some dead air. Mhm. While we're waiting, I think I'll mention a few episodes that we have forthcoming. I'm looking here at our publication calendar. So today we just released an episode with Leonardo de Chirico and Mark Gilbert looking at the Council of Nicaea and considering that on its 1700th, or the Nicene Creed at least, looking at the 1700th anniversary of the Nicene Creed. That was a really fun episode. We've got quite a few people that have been watching that today. Next week, Lord willing, we will be publishing an episode with Michael Morales on his 2-volume commentary series on the Book of Numbers. You can find that again on should be June 27th. Then the week after that, we'll be following up with another Van Til Group episode in which Carlton Wynn, Lane Tipton, and I pick back up on our conversation of Dr. Keith Matheson's book, Toward a Reformed Apologetics. Here's Dave. So those are the 3 Christ the Center episodes to be featured in the near future. Let's see if we get him back here, and we'll start picking back up with our discussion of P&R. We got to get the tail end of this. What is the book he's most excited about? Here we go.
Okay.
Are you there?
I am.
All
I don't know
right.
what was going on there. It must be this weather that we've been having, which has been knocking out
Yeah.
internet stuff all over the place. But
Well,
anyway,
glad to have you back. I said this this might be a genius marketing ploy because you gave us quite the tease about the book you're most excited about. Then you dropped off, but then I went through and I listed all the other books or at least the ones I could find
yeah.
in the Blessings of the Faith series, and then talked a little
Okay.
bit about what's
Yeah.
going on. So now we've got it. We've done with our commercial break. We've come back
Okay.
from the break. What are
Yes.
you most excited about? I got to see it.
All right. Well, here we have it. It's the Calvin's
Uh,
Institutes,
yes,
okay, in a graphic novel format. All right.
that's right.
I don't know if
That's
anybody
right.
was even aware that we were up to this craziness, but you can see inside. It's actually
Yep.
got that really cool illustration work done by Paul Cox.
Hmm.
Martin Williams and Joy Williams. Martin is a theologian in Australia who loves Calvin, the Institutes, and really wanted to make it accessible for a younger generation in a new and a fresh way. And Paul Cox of Reftunes graciously
Hmm.
agreed to work with us on this. And of course, like P&R would do, we're never going to just do something small and send you one thing. This is volume 1 of 16 of these, okay? And
16.
so, and we're going to have 4 hardcover volumes where 4 of these comic books will be in each one. So you can
Oh.
actually collect it that way if you want to. So
Uh-huh.
this is the first one to come out. And I will tell you, it is amazing to hear the response we're getting to it. People that, yeah, just are delighted to have something their kids can sink their teeth into.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about Reformed theology for real life, and this is one of the ways that we're doing that is putting things in new and different formats for people as well. So
It's really exciting. When I got notice of that, and I have a pre-pub PDF of it for review purposes, and I shared it with
yeah,
my son to take a look at to get his feedback, and he was very interested. I said, "Yeah, it's a comic book about John Calvin's Institutes." He said, "What?" It's
yeah,
he's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, you got to check it out." So he was interested to take a look. So that's a
yeah,
wonderful idea. It should be really
yeah.
exciting.
Only
Will there
P&R
be
would ever
copies of
consider
that
such a thing. Yes.
at GA as well?
Oh yeah, there'll be plenty at
Mhm.
BCA General Assembly, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing lots of friends there, and talking about great books as well. So, but
Awesome.
yeah, super fun. Thanks for teasing out the Blessings of the Faith series while I was apparently
Yeah.
unavailable. So
No, no, we got it. I'm glad you're back. This is exciting. This is the thing with live. Normally, I just trim that or edit that, but we gotta roll with it. More like a
yeah,
traditional radio. Another book I just started taking a look at yesterday is I think it's the second edition in the Christ of the Consummation series. Or it's old Palmer Robertson's book, Christ of the
yeah,
Consummation, Acts and Paul. Can you tell me more about that series and that particular
yeah.
volume? That's a big one.
Super excited about that one. It
Mm-hmm.
is volume 2, so you got that right.
Mm-hmm.
He did the Gospels first. He's working on Acts and Paul right now, and there'll be a third volume to complete that. Some may know that Palmer is a seasoned individual. I'll just say it that way,
Mm-hmm.
and so we are very grateful that he's writing this 3-volume series for us, and we're hopeful that volume 3 can be out in another year or two,
Wow.
and this, as you know, many people were aware that Palmer has written a lot in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Not as many folks would even know that he was working on the New Testament and really doing a bit biblical theology in this just a really creative way that he writes about redemptive history and really unpacks that in, I think, quite an accessible way for
Hmm.
a more average reader. You don't have to be an academic, I think, to understand Palmer and to really appreciate his writing. So
Absolutely. Well, some of his books are just absolute classics. You think about Christ of the Covenants, or even Israel and the Church. I forget. I might be getting that title wrong, but I mean, he's been so helpful to me in my own walk, and I've shared his books with so many people. Christ of the Consummation, the first volume was excellent. We spoke with him about that, and I can't wait to read this second one. I've got it loaded up and ready to go, so I'm excited to follow up with that on that with everyone. That's another excellent series. So well done, and I can't wait to see the third one whenever it's ready.
yeah, no, we
What?
should have that out soon. And, I think that really kind of shows also the breadth of the kinds of things that we're working on, things that would
Mhm,
really do appeal and are useful in the academy, things that are going to be super helpful for the church, and then things for the home. We really
mhm.
see those as three key target audiences for the content that we're working on.
Yeah, well, tell me more about that. Speaking of resources for the home, but even more broadly, we might consider just children's resources. I know there's a whole section at prpbooks.com for P&R Kids. We've got the graphic novel and Calvin's Institutes, but what other
Yeah.
types of resources do you have available?
Yeah, no, it's fun that you would ask me that question, and there's been a lot of discussion, I think, internally about what do we want to do to be different in the category of kids products, because there are
Hmm.
other wonderful Christian publishers doing good work, and we're
Hmm.
certainly not looking to replicate or duplicate what
Hmm.
they're doing. We want to be distinctive in what we're doing as well. And so I would say that really a core value for us in our kids product is theological formation. And so we're thinking about not just sort of moral formation, which is what a lot of other children's book publishers are focused on, but even at the very youngest ages, that kids can begin to really appreciate theology and its impact in their lives. And so we literally have, from a 0 to 3-year-old, something called the Tiny Hands series, which is taking things like the Psalms. We're literally going to have the Apostles' Creed coming out in one of these board books as
Oh,
well. Only P&R would do a board book on the Apostles' Creed, but anyway. so, but the Tiny Hands hymns was the first one that came out, and it's such a beautiful idea of just one stanza of a hymn with gorgeous illustrations, and the parent can then either sing or read that to their child, and
wow.
that child is hearing theology from the very, very youngest age.
Hmm.
We have a series that we're working on with Paul Touches, who is a pastor and biblical counselor, that really is looking at um, lesser known or lesser discussed stories of the Bible. And very often, when people do Bible stories, it can be one of two things. It can be very character driven, like let's
Hmm.
talk about the character, sort of the hero of the story, or it can
Hmm.
be the kid who's reading it is actually sort of the hero in an interesting way. And our approach is to say, well, how do we make God the hero of these books and really
Hmm.
bring in subtly and sometimes not so subtly Reformed theology into the teaching that we're doing? And so the first book was called Dinner with the King. It was the
Mm.
Mephibosheth story, and really
Yeah.
looking at how it, as King David invited Mephibosheth to his story, to his table, so does God invite us to His table as well. And it's just a beautiful story and outworking of that. So we're really delighted about that. But I will give you a kind of a sneak peek at something coming next year. We are actually working with Palmer Robertson on a book for children, okay,
Oh,
that's going to be something called Covenants for Kids, or something along those lines. So if you've loved as an adult, Palmer Robertson's, theological take on the covenants,
sure.
here's going to be something for your kids to really sink their teeth into. We didn't know he'd been teaching like Sunday school classes and young people for many, many years.
Yeah.
And so he and his wife approached us about this idea, and we thought, wow, that would be a great fit for us. So that's a quick teaser of some of the things that we're up to in the kids category.
That's
So
exciting. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, and hopefully, we'll be able to use that and share that with our families and possibly even in our churches. That's really exciting. What do you have any other initiatives or forthcoming projects? I mean, you don't have to let the cat out of the bag, but is
yeah, yeah,
what should
no.
people be looking for coming on down the road?
Well, I want to highlight three things that we're really excited about. One is that a lot of our content is now getting into audiobook format.
Hmm.
And that was not always true. We really did not have a lot of audiobooks for quite a long time, but we're up to now, I think it's over 100 of our books are now in an
Wow.
audiobook format.
Wow.
And so that is a way that I know a lot of people want to engage content these days. And so in
Hmm.
addition to having a physical book or an ebook, they can now engage it via audio.
Hmm.
And so that's exciting. A second
Where can you
initiative that
find
I
the
would say,
audiobooks? Is it in various places like Audible or Spotify or just straight through the
yeah,
PRP Books website?
it's literally everywhere. And so all those
Okay.
things that you just mentioned
Literally.
are true. But
Yes.
the way to get to that, yeah, is to go onto the book page on our website and you
Okay.
click on audio right there, and it gives you all the options that you
Uh,
want. And so you can find it on Amazon, you can find it on Spotify, but all of the major platforms for sure.
oh, I'm seeing
So
it. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's great. That's a great way to redeem the time, to use a
yeah,
Pauline phrase. But I found that helpful. Some people might not know. I don't want to be speaking if this isn't true for some of the P&R titles, but it's worth a shot. That I have a Spotify subscription. It's like, I guess it's a premium subscription. I didn't think I was paying extra for something special, but it's like an ad-free version. And
yeah,
I just found out like a year ago that it included just audiobooks. So not
yeah,
all of them, but many, like from
yeah,
big publishers, are just included in my subscription. And I trust that, as I download one of those, that it kicks back to the publisher a portion of my subscription. That's what it ought to be doing. So it's worth a shot for people to take a look at, because there might be some excellent P&R titles that you can listen to that aren't actually going to cost you incrementally amount, but it might redirect some of your subscription to P&R.
yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you for that
Hmm.
mention.
Yeah.
A second key initiative I'll mention is that we're really embracing the Spanish language ourselves rather
I
than
was gonna
than
ask. Yeah.
rather than just getting the material out, through a license deal with someone else. We've really embraced the idea of doing Spanish content ourselves. We're actually paying for the translation, paying for the editing, and working closely with Portavoz to get that content all over the world. And by the end of this year, Lord willing, we will have as many as 40 titles in Spanish, which is
Wow.
a pretty remarkable feat. So, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
that's that we've been doing some of that work, with our courses and companion books, and it's a lot of work, but that's a wonderful thing to do, because I've been down to Colombia a couple times, and even just to see the books that are available, there are a handful, but relative to what we have in the United States in English, it is severely
yeah.
impoverished. And so to
Oh
to
yeah.
have quality Christian books, and particularly Reformed and confessional books in the Spanish language that aren't bootlegs, because you never know
Yeah.
which one, that's illegal. Number two, you don't know, the quality or the provenance of some of these translations. They may or may not be good, but to have them from the publisher, and a reputable one at that, done by quality people, that's a really
Yeah.
important work. Are there ways that people might be able to help out? I mean, if people have a concern in missions to get more books out there, I mean, P&R is a nonprofit organization, can receive
We
donations,
are.
correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we absolutely can, and we do have projects that we can receive funds for.
Mhm.
There are languages that we are talking about right now, besides Spanish, that we would love to get into ourselves. And so, yeah, more to come on that.
Yeah.
I'll mention one more initiative, if you don't mind,
Please.
that we're working on, which is really an area that's been an area of excitement for me this year, is women's content.
Hmm.
We want to really empower female writers that are reformed, that have great things to say, but just have not been able to find the right platform, the right
Mhm.
audience. And so we're wanting to take that concept of reformed theology for real life and say that there are a lot of great women who have content that needs to get out to the world. And so these are oftentimes women's ministry leaders in the church. They're often
Mhm.
folks who actually have theological training and are bringing that to bear in their writing. And we put on our first ever women's conference this past May at Westminster PCA Church out in Lancaster County, and
There you
we had
go.
over 626 women come to
Wow.
that event. We had Megan Hill as our headliner for that. And so we have 3 different series that we're actually launching for women over the next 18 months. We have a booklet series, a devotional series, and then just a trade book series that we're working on right now. For the women in your audience, just know that there is content in the pipeline coming to really expand, our breadth of selection for
That's
women.
great.
So,
Yeah. Well, we'd love for people
yeah,
to know more about that. And I know my wife's always interested. My wife's even spoken with Megan Hill a couple times when she's been
yeah,
at
yeah.
various events, and it's always exciting to hear what people are working on. And we always love to catch up with you about what's coming on down the pike. Dave, are there some other things you're excited about, or anything else that you'd love to mention, or at least point people to, and how they might be able to follow up with P&R Publishing and get on the P&R train?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest with you, I think that there's some really fun things happening in the marketing world these days in terms of
Mm,
what we're doing, and I would just encourage people to hop on our website, get on our email list, kind of see what we're up to. We're doing a lot of things in social media these days, where we're doing
hmm.
giveaways of content, and we would love every month. Right now, we're doing this thing we're calling the Big Book Giveaway, and we're giving away 25 to 50 copies of a given book in any given month. And
Wow.
so we'd love people to know about that and to jump on that and to participate in that where they can. So
Absolutely. So the website, the main website, you can head over to prpbooks.com, but you can also find a YouTube channel, which is PRP Books, Facebook/PRP Books. They've done well to have PRP Books at all of them. Instagram,
yep,
Twitter X, which I
yep.
tagged you, and then they also have a blog you can follow along on the website. So full court press on the social media. No TikTok. We don't do TikTok. I reserve the Reform Forum TikTok here, but I kind of got we don't we're not
Yeah,
I
we're not on
haven't
TikTok.
sold that part of
Yeah.
my soul yet. So like
No, no, we're not there. That's for
yeah,
sure. And I would say one thing people can be looking for is more video content. We're really
yeah.
committed to that over time. Just this year, we've been doing more and more times where we're recording video from different events that we're at with
Mhm.
our authors, and we're really committed to getting more of that up on YouTube and out through social media as well.
No, that's exciting. Well, good. Yeah, everyone, check out prpbooks.com, and that'll be your gateway to all sorts of things. If you're coming to the PCA General Assembly next week, certainly take a look at the P&R Publishing table. Dave will be there. Dave, what are some other events that you'll be attending later on in the year? Certainly, when it's fall comes, you'll probably be on the road quite a bit.
Oh yeah, no. Usually things kick off with a Sing conference, which we love.
Yeah.
So we'll be at that this year. I think we'll be at Revive Our Hearts for sure. The CCEF conference, the ACBC conference, and then ETS at the end of the year as well. So that's just a
Wow.
handful. There's so many acronyms in our world these days.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah,
That's great. Well, we've been speaking with Dave Almack from P&R Publishing, one of our longtime friends and partners. We're very thankful. Dave, this has been a real pleasure to speak with you today. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing this with all of our listeners.
yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Camden, and
You bet.
you have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. I want to let everyone know again, follow up with P&R, but you can follow up with us at reformedforum.org. It's been fun to get back in the saddle for a live episode, and it's been a good one. And we're certainly will be putting this in the various places and posting it online for people to see, even after the fact. You can find this and other episodes on our YouTube channel, but everything can be found at reformedforum.org. Episodes of Christ the Center, our other podcasts, Theology Simply Profound, Proclaiming Christ, as well as lots of new courses and publications. So take a look there. If you love Reformed theology, you're going to love what we've got there, and you're going to love what they have over at P&R. But I do want to thank everybody for listening and watching. We hope you join us again next time we're live. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Camden.